a beautiful gift to your grandmother and your family. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 21 in your gray hymnals. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome you to this space of remembrance. This is a place to hold your grief, your tears, and your joy as you remember a life well lived and a person well loved, a force of nature and a force for good, a force for order where there might otherwise be chaos in this world. If this is your first time to a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we want you to know that we are a part of the Congregational Protestant lineage of Christian churches, but more than a century ago, we decided that we'd rather build our religious community on the promises we make and about how we respect each other and treat each other, rather than on a uniformity of belief. As a non-creedal community, we honor religious wisdom and truth wherever we find it, in the great religious traditions of the world, in poetry, in wise words, as well as within our own hearts. As Emerson, a Unitarian Universalist minister, charged us, we must pass our lives through the fire of thought. That also is a source for us. And when we grieve, we use our memorial services as occasions to celebrate the life of our loved one rather than as an occasion for a proclamation of faith, because as Unitarian Universalists, a life well lived is a testament of our faith. We also honor the fact that each of us gathered here has our own spiritual understanding of the mysteries of life and death, and each of us will find consolation in these understandings. And they'll support us as we move through this loss. We know very well that death is an inevitable part of our lives. We know that as we learn to love one another, that eventually our love will include loss and grief. Because no matter how lucky we are in our lives, no matter how long we live, saying goodbye comes to each of us. Mary was a titan. And maybe we all knew intellectually that someday she wouldn't be with us. But when someone has that much life and that much energy and that much love in their hearts and that much passion for bringing people together, for making a way for them to interact with life and with art, when they have that much leadership inside of them, we kind of forget that they're mortal too. And in losing people like Mary, it still comes as a big shock to us. Some of you may remember that Mary was the first female president here at All Souls. Maybe you remember her from running the religious education program. Maybe you remember her for starting the memoir group, and the memoir group, too, is seeking new members. The legacy lives on. Maybe you were moved by Mary's artwork. Maybe you were roped into volunteering for something you might not have otherwise. But if you're gathered here, whether you're meeting Mary for the first time through this service or you're meeting her again through the many reflections of the loved ones here to share, you will learn something new about her today. Another facet to a woman that had as many facets as the biggest diamond you could find. Now, being human, we rage against the dying of the light, as Dylan Thomas writes. Don't be perplexed if you're feeling that rage or other emotions now. Be present to them, accept them. Our feelings are doorways to life's deeper understandings. So let us gather here this day, summoned by respect and affection, to demonstrate our love for both the living and the dead. Let us gather to comfort one another, for we have suffered a great loss. We gather to celebrate together, for we have been blessed by this shining life called Mary Branson. So let us gather with gratitude. Let us gather with our grief. And may peace pervade this space today and pervade all of the hearts gathered here within as we give thanks for Mary's life. Please rise in body or spirit as we say together the words of our covenants, originally written by James Villa Blake, the same words we have shared since 1903. They are right on the wall behind us as Betsy comes to light the chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you. You may be seated.
A Litany of Remembrance by Roland B. Gittleson. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Please rise in body or spirit for our hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good afternoon. My name's John Crawford. Mary was my mother-in-law, but I first met Mary when I was 10 years old. Her name then was Mrs. Branson, and she was my grade school art teacher for 4 years. A little weird, I know. She stayed Mrs. Branson until I married her daughter, Betsy, who was in those classes with me. Mary was only Mary for a few years, then her name changed again to Mom when our children were born. Our grade school classmates, though, still call her Mrs. Branson. Quite a few of them went on to become professional artists or art historians. Here are some of their comments upon learning of her death. Much loved by this class, had an outsized influence. Grateful she chose to be a teacher. Added so much by including art into our world. So patient for those of us artistically challenged. That would be me. Just an all-around rock star. The comments don't seem to be about art skills specifically, but more what Mary was like as a person. Mary was smart and had a strong sense of right and wrong, which in my case meant she was usually right and I was usually wrong. For her own goody two-shoes daughter, it meant she got sent to stand in the hall just like everyone else for talking too much. Betsy got in trouble. For a preteen boy trying to steal a road sign, it meant Mary pulled her car over and admonished him on the spot. The fact that he happened to be my brother was just a coincidence. She was also known to correct any improper grammar uttered in her presence, although I'm still not sure when to use lie or lay. Once a teacher, always a teacher. She taught us how to live simply, how to accept our circumstances and limitations with humor, and how to love our imperfect friends and family. Lay in peace, Mom.
Good afternoon. There are a couple of pivotal circumstances which led to the lifelong friendship between Mary Louise Branson and Mary Jean Huffman Petronoff. In 1945, they found a compatible roommate in each other when they both worked for Trans World Airlines as ticket agents. And number two, Jean introduced Mary to her future husband. In 1946, a former classmate from Newcastle High School, Bob Branson, asked Mary Jean Huffman to go to a dance, just as a friend, at the fraternity at Butler University. Jean said she was already going with his fraternity brother, Bill Petronoff, but maybe her roommate, Mary, would like to go. And you know the rest of that story. In 1948, Mary Louise Branson was matron of honor at Bill and Jean Petronoff's wedding. Both couples started families, and as they grew, the couples and kids met often for potluck suppers or cornbread and bean soup. Aunt Mary and Mom planned family trips together, since both women were teachers in IPS, and they were on the same schedule. Memorable times or had camping at Waco Beach, Michigan, or on the Southern Educational Tours, the SETs, during spring break. As Mom wrote in one of her memoirs, she was a member of the All Souls Memoirs group here, and she loved it. Our families were so intertwined, we were honorary aunts and uncles to each other's children. Friends for life, they were almost as close as sisters. Did they have their differences? They sure did. But the love and the laughter they shared with all of us was contagious, and they had more in common than they had differences. Mary, the vivacious redhead, and Jeannie with the light brown hair. I almost made it.
Good afternoon, again. I'm Sandy Reed Ryberg. I still can't believe that Mary Branson has left us. As Reverend Katie said, she was such a strong presence, and throughout my whole life that I still feel her presence. In fact, I keep thinking I'm going to go out and just say, hello, Mary, She was one of the women I call my other mothers because they influenced me almost as much as my own mother. And when Mary served as the director of religious education here at All Souls, she directed my mother, who was one of the church school teachers. There were Branson girls for every Reed girl. Kathy and I were at Shortridge High School together in the same class. Then Sarah and my sister Patsy, and Betsy and my sister Maria. I'm sorry, Mary, you were stuck with my brother Dan. But Mary, as Reverend Katie said, was also the first woman to serve as president of the congregation, and it never seemed strange for her to be in these roles. She stepped into them effortlessly, as though it were just natural for a woman to be in such a leadership position, which it was not at that time. She did all of this while raising those 4 wonderful daughters I mentioned, while being Bob's loving wife, and Bob was a person who loved everybody, so being Bob's loving wife was something, and creating the beautiful artwork and being an art teacher. And her artwork is still displayed around the building, so I hope you all take a little look at that. More importantly, she embodied the values that she taught us all. We saw in Mary someone who loved learning, sought truth, appreciated creativity, and found beauty both in nature and in people. You knew that when Mary asked you to share your story, she was genuinely interested in you and that story, and she sincerely treasured the time that you spent with her. Mary, we treasured you for every minute that we spent with you, and we thank you for the legacy that you left us. This way.
I think this needs to come down. Is this right? It needs to be quite a bit further down for me. There, that's better. Okay. From the time I came to All Souls nearly 20 years ago, Mary Branson was a constant and delightful presence in my life. When I attended the Memoirs group in the spring of 2003, I met our leader, Mary, who along with Connie Raudebush had started the group several years before. Soon I came to know a great deal about Mary and the other members from their reading of their memoirs at each meeting. Mary was an excellent leader, keeping us on schedule when there were as many as 12 people in the group. She also provided writing guidance. For instance, she insisted we not use the terms ladies or gentlemen unless we knew for certain that those people being described were in fact ladies or gentlemen. And since I had taught English, Mary, the consummate grammar police, considered me a kindred spirit. There were particular grammatical errors that really disturbed her, and even if she didn't bring attention to them during the reading, she would glance my way to share her disapproval. These usually related to the pronouns, such as the incorrect use of the pronoun I. Following each memoir meeting, several of us would meet for lunch at Lincoln Square. This was possibly Mary's favorite part of the day. Then those last few years, before Mary moved to Lafayette from her daughter Betsy's house, I drove her home, which allowed us to become even closer. On her last birthday, we had a party at Lincoln Square for her, and many of the people from All Souls came. There were probably 25 or more people there. It was glorious. For several years, Mary organized the Memoirs group in presenting a Memorial Day Sunday program at All Souls. 4 of us would read memoirs related to war veterans and the military, in addition to loved ones who had passed on. I think Mary would want me to mention some of the members of the Memoirs group who left us before she did, as some had been in the group from the beginning. These are Jane Perry, Fred Morris, Jean Petranoff, Connie Raudebush, Don Summers, Sherry Robinson, Ann Stern, and Barbara and Court Robinson. I will always remember and miss my friend Mary.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but it could have been a couple decades ago. Mary came up to me after church one Sunday and asked if I would sing at her funeral this specific song. Yeah, I could tell she was a planner. And I told her I'd be honored. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high And don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Hey everyone. Tough act to follow. Yeah. Mhm. Can I read that one, please? Do you have? Yeah, thanks. I'm Ben Crawford, one of Mary's 8 grandchildren. My 8 cousins and I, we knew the version of Mary known as Mom, and we were fortunate to spend a lot of time with her and Pop during family gatherings at Christmas, Aunt Kathy's Lake House, and Pokagon. I remember art lessons with the cousins, after school, treats and games with my sister, and Mom singing along to big band music. Grandmas are the best. Some of the most important lessons I learned from Mom are to take pride in your family, keep your friends and your sense of humor, and how to play blackjack. Though that last one might have been mostly Pop. Mom always expressed how proud she was of us grandkids. And from the stories she told, we could tell she was proud of her own parents too. At the time, I didn't realize how important it is to pass down stories about the family. Her memoirs are a gift future generations will prize. To me, Mom also seemed really, really proud of having red hair. And whenever a new baby was born in the family, one of her first questions was whether they too had the ginger gene. Yeah. I remember Mom had a quick sense of humor and a great laugh, that seems to have been passed down in the family. People say friends are one key to a long, happy life. And later in life, when Mom was living at the cabin with my parents, she would still have meetups and long and apparently hilarious phone calls with friends from high school. I was always impressed by this, and I'm trying to follow her example in that way. I also remember Mom saying that having kids was her version of immortality. And looking around the room today at all her great grandchildren who are here, I'd say she's right, and she'll be with us for a long time. We love you, Mom. We're proud of you. We're proud of each other, and we'll keep on laughing.
Hello. Oh, that's right for me. I'm Sarah. I'm Mary's second. What, am I in the wrong place? Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell them who I am again then. I'm Sarah, second out of 4 daughters of Mary Branson. I want to share some things about my mother. She got compliments wherever she went on her red hair, and she was convinced of the superiority of red hair. And she was delighted when she finally had a red-haired great-grandson. She had to wait 70 years. After I was born, I was the last. My father loved redheads, too. He met her, as Lisa told you about how he met her, and when he first saw her, he was just gobsmacked. It was love at first sight. And he always thought she was the most beautiful woman, and wherever they went, he would tell her that when they came home. I admired my mother's organization. For example, when I was growing up, we had the exact same menu from week to week, which meant that every Thursday was steak night, every Friday was fish sticks, every Saturday was pizza, although my older sister told me it was hamburgers and baked beans, but I didn't remember it that way. So she was very clear about her expectations for the 4 of us, and they were as follows. I may be wrong here, but get good grades, don't get fat, dress nicely, be frugal, graduate from college before you get married and have a baby. That last one was the most important one. The lessons we learned from her have helped us raise our own children. I told my sons, never get pregnant before you're married. And not a one of them did. They were good boys. My mother was a devoted friend. When she made a friend, she kept them. During high school, she belonged to a girls' club called the Skids, which stood for Shortridge Kids in Debt. Although through the years, this group of women met almost monthly, really until practically the end of my mother's life, until too many people died, until she was like 95. Anyway, Mom met Jean Petronoff during college, and they were best friends for over 60 years. They were so close that we called her Aunt Jean. I'm grateful to my mother for her spirit of fun. We did a lot of really fun things with her. Some of my cherished childhood memories were joint family activities planned with Mom and Aunt Jean would cook up an idea, and we would end up going to Waco Beach or Southern educational tours for spring break and have flip-flop family festivals. If you want to know about the flip-flops, I'll tell you after. It's too long a story. Anyway, she and Aunt Jeannie would organize us to be the entertainment. So we put on skits, sang songs, the Petronoff girls danced one time. It was a lot of fun. It meant that my mother enjoyed being with us and thought we were fun people. I admired her artistic talents. Raising children didn't leave much time for her drawing and painting. So as a young mother, she sewed. She sewed all kinds of dresses. She sewed mother-daughter dresses, which I think were very popular in the 50s, because there are pictures of Mom in a dress, Kathy, and me in the same dress. They were very cute. And she sewed those, and she did sister dresses, and then she sewed some prom dresses, bridesmaid dresses. She made a lot of bridesmaid dresses. And some wedding dresses. I think only 2 wedding dresses. And if I left out your wedding dress, sister, I'm sorry. But I don't think I did. I remember once, and there's a picture of me when I felt like an absolute princess in this beautiful pink dress she made me. I think I felt more like a princess than any time in my life. Once we were raised, my mother had more time for her artwork. She drew beautiful pastels of her children and her grandchildren, and we really have benefited from that. If you go into the homes of any of us or any of our kids, you'll find her artwork proudly hanging on their walls. Mom's artwork is an enduring testimony to her creativity and love. Mom's mother, our grandmother Olive, was active in politics and was involved in the struggle for women's suffrage. So my mother was a dyed-in-the-wool FDR Democrat and feminist. Mom believed in service to others and in helping the little guy. She demonstrated this. I lost my place. She demonstrated this in her work with the Unitarian Church, the Democratic Party, the Girl Scouts of America, and Planned Parenthood. She taught us to hold no prejudice against people of other races, and that people should be free to make their own life choices. This church, and I'm telling you, I remember when this church was built. This church was a big part of my mother's service to others. My parents signed the book at All Souls in 1950, and signing the book is the equivalent of confirmation in other churches. So that doesn't sound like much, but that's a big deal. All 4 of us daughters attended Sunday school, married in the church, and dedicated children in the church. She was the president of the congregation for 2 years, and the religious education for 8. All Souls was family to her. I was astonished at the number of cards she received when she moved to Lafayette. It was wonderful. And so many people from All Souls, and many people expressed appreciation for her warmth and friendliness and said that it helped them come back and eventually become members of the church. I'm thankful that Mom's last days were peaceful. And I'm thankful now that she's gone. She still left me with the best gift she ever gave me, my 3 wonderful sisters, Kathy, Betsy, and Mary. For all these reasons and many more, I am proud and thankful that Mary Branson was my mother. I love her, I miss her. Bless you and thank you, and goodbye, Mom.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace.
almost a year ago, when I first came to All Souls for what we call Candidating Week, one of the first things I heard repeatedly was, "Do you know about the 4 Bobs?" Which, of course, Bob Branson was one of the 4 Bobs. Nothing happened at All Souls without the support and the energy of Bob Branson. So I'd hear about the 4 Bobs, and then I would hear, "Do you know about Mary Branson? Have you met Mary yet? Can I talk to you about Mary? Look at this mouse pad. This is just one piece of Mary's beautiful art. And can I tell you about her dedication to religious education? Can I tell you about the way that she brought families together?" And when I look around at All Souls today, I can see the fingerprints of their hearts, of Mary and Bob, and everyone gathered on the walls, and even the way this gorgeous maker space came into being in rooms 4 and 5 upstairs. So many churches don't prioritize creativity in the way we do here, and I have to believe that some of that foundation comes from Mary. It's said that we are all on the shoulders of giants. Well, those titans, those giants are most certainly the Branson family. So I thank you. I thank you for sharing your parents with us. I thank you for coming home to us so that we could remember them together. I have some words for you from Marge Piercy. This is Marge Piercy's piece, "To Be of Use." And Mary always found ways to be of use, to find beauty, and to remember that even beautiful things are meant to be used and not just stared at. So I invite you to listen with your whole heart for the charge in these words for you, that you will carry with you as you go forward with your life and remember Mary. Marge Piercy says, "The people I love best jump into work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with shore strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to remain seated as the family exits, and the family will meet you in Harris Hall while the choir sings us out with this Irish blessing.